أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. So we started chapter 14 last week. We're going to continue from where we left. The role of cost accounting system in the production cycle. We talked about it a little bit in our first session on chapter 14. We'll continue on this. The role of cost accounting is a major role in the production cycle because the data comes from the activities in the production cycle, the labor cost, the material cost, the overhead, all of that. So cost accounting's job is to provide information to the accounting and reporting system, the AIS, for planning, controlling, and evaluating production operations performance. And timely, real-time data is more important than accuracy because let's say you have material waste or you have an inefficiency in the process. Knowing the approximate number, the approximate amount of waste or approximate number of hours or approximate number of defects is more important than knowing the accurate data later. So the faster the information is, the better it is, because this is for internal reporting and the managers can take action. So this information is coming from real activities, and the quicker the information can come, quicker the data can come, the faster they can take actions. Next, providing accurate cost data about products for use in pricing and product mix. So now when the product is being manufactured, the cost, we are very concerned about the cost of one product because we need to know that for pricing. We need to know what the cost of the product is before we can decide how much we can sell it for. We definitely cannot sell something that is at a price lower than the cost, because that would generate a loss, and the business does not want that. So we need to know the cost of the product, pricing, as well as product mix. Remember, I discussed product mix a little bit during our last session. Which one of the products should you make more? Which one you should make less? If you're producing, let's say, Toyota Camry or Land Cruiser, and you can only make 100 cars, how many of the Land Cruisers you're going to make? How many of the Camry you're going to make? And one of the key ingredients for making this decision is to know which one costs how much and the price of each. So this data again comes from the cost data, comes from the production, and the cost accountant's job is to gather the right data, correct data, accurate data, timely, so that these decisions can be made. Okay, are you following? You can ask me, you can stop and ask me if you have any questions. Now, the role of cost accounting also is to collect the data for the calculation of inventory and cost of goods sold. Now, the inventory calculation and the cost of goods sold calculation is done by the general ledger and reporting system, where the financial statements reflect these data. Now, this financial statements, the income statement, balance sheet, it goes out to external parties. So this data requires a careful collection for each category, and also appropriate cost allocation to products and organizational units. What does this mean? Let's say you are making 3, 4, 5 different types of products, computers and tablets and phones, etc. You need to know the cost that is associated with each one of the products. Maybe they're made in the same location, so you need to know how much of the electricity goes into making each one of these products, or how much of the rent of the space should be allocated to the product. Also, if you have multiple locations and you have engineers working in those different units in different branches, you need to know how much of their labor cost should be allocated to these different units, so that you can get a true and accurate picture of the cost of making the product. And this is again a very, you can imagine, very detailed, cumbersome work. Just think about, how many people work there and how many different types of stages and units you have. So this is the role of cost accountants, is to understand the process and to allocate the costs for not only each of the products, but if there are multiple locations or multiple units, multiple divisions, then how to allocate the total cost among those different units. Does that make sense? Are you following? Okay. Now, the next few slides are going to talk about the threats and the controls in the different stages of the production cycle, just like we talked about it in the revenue and expenditure cycle. The first thing that is a threat in the product design is higher material cost. You might end up using a raw material or an ingredient in your production that is more expensive than the alternative. Or you may be purchasing it from a supplier who sells it for a higher price. This would increase the cost of your production. So knowing the data, accurate data, that which raw materials are sufficient. Maybe you can use a copper wire and you're using a gold wire. Gold and silver are used in production and they are more durable than some other metal. Gold is one of the uh, most durable metals that is out there. So if you're using gold and just using copper would serve the same purpose, then you're unnecessarily increasing the price, increasing the cost of the item that you're manufacturing. So knowing who's selling the items and knowing what alternatives are there for manufacturing the same item is necessary to lower the material cost. The second is inefficient production. You might have too many people working in the same product. Maybe 20 people are working and you only can do it with 15. In that case, you are wasting, and also your production process may be inefficient. It may be very complicated. If you look at a factory production, you will see that the same person is only putting one of the tires in the car instead of working on the entire car production. If you simplify the process, it also makes the production efficient. Right? There's a question on choosing the cheapest supplier under the expenditure cycle. Now, the expenditure cycle decides much of that when it comes to purchasing the item, but when you're designing the product, right, the production cycle designs the product. The expenditure cycle does not have much to contribute there. They just can buy that material which is going to be put into the item. So, for example, let's say you have to, like the example I was giving, you can use copper, but you're using gold, right? So it increases the price. Also, when you're designing and for example, you're designing the car, you could put a GPS system from a company that is cheaper than another company. And if this is decided in the production cycle, it is not left to the expenditure cycle anymore. But the expenditure cycle, if the choices are open, they do decide. The production product design could limit the options for the expenditure cycle as well. If they say gold wire, they have to buy gold. They cannot choose to buy copper anymore. If they say the GPS system must come from Garmin, the expenditure cycle does not have any option because the space in the car is for a specific GPS system. So you have to buy that to put it in there. Does that make sense? If the option is open, the expenditure cycle can decide. The product design can limit the options for the expenditure cycle to decide. Does that make sense? From whom to buy the gold wire, it is up to the expenditure cycle, but they have to buy gold wire. So they cannot now decide to buy copper wire, right? And if the product design, if the production design says that we have chosen this such and such model of the GPS system, then you have to buy from Garmin. It even limits the expenditure cycles choice. Now, if it is merchandising operation, when you're buying and selling the battery or buying and selling the shampoo, the options for expenditure cycle is more open compared to the production product design. Does that make sense? Okay, there's another question from Atif. Is the expenditure in the expenditure cycle they just receive the requisition by different department, or they could request themselves also? The expenditure cycle's job is to order the item and receive and store. Now, if the items are very, very specific and specified by the other departments, then the expenditure cycle has less room to decide which supplier to buy from. Right? If I tell them that I need an Apple such and such model computer, and I don't tell them what I need to do with this, if I tell them I need a computer for teaching and research, they can now go and widely choose. But if I narrow it down, then the expenditure cycles options become narrower. Does that make sense? The expenditure cycle could limit the options for others as well. They could say that we can only buy computers from Lenovo or Dell, so you choose between the two. So if that's the case, then it limits the options for others. So it can work both ways. All right. Now coming into the third threat, which is high repair and warranty costs. Again, in the product design, if the items are not designed properly and it goes to the customers could bring it back, and there may be defects. So the higher the repair and the warranty costs would go up. When you buy a new item, it usually, if it's an electronic good or a motor vehicle, they come with 1, 2, 3 years warranty. And if the thing breaks down before the warranty period, the company has to fix it. So if the product design is defective, then it will cost the company more. Now, the way to deal with it is to design the product and test the product properly before it goes out into the market, so that you can reduce this cost. And we'll talk about more about this in just a few minutes in the quality control discussion, where we have different stages of the quality control. All right, good questions. Any other questions about this? Okay, move on to the next stage, which is production planning. So here, the overwhelming thing is either you have overproduction or underproduction. If you have overproduction, you will have obsolete inventory. Now, if you make too many of something and you cannot sell it, the inventory either will be obsolete before when the next model comes out, or the next product comes out, it will be in an obsolete inventory, or you might have to sell it for a very low price. If you do not produce enough, then your customers will go and buy it from somewhere else. That means you have lost sales. So here, a few things must be done. Number one, the production must be planned based on how many you can sell, how much inventory items you have, and the production must be authorized by someone who has a clear idea about the amount of production that is necessary when you have X amount of demand. So the demand as well as the existing inventory must be taken into consideration, and then the production must be authorized to avoid over or under production. The threat in cost accounting is inaccurate data. Now, the cost, just think about the number of different items that go into the manufacturing of a car, the number of different sizes of screws, the number of different types of metal and plastic and cloth and leather and rubber and wiring and all of this. So keeping track of this, providing accurate data is a very, very difficult task. The more it is automated, the more automation you use. And these are just some examples: RFID, barcode scanners, and other means. Uh, there are, you have during your first project, you have many of the groups have searched and uh, learned more about the automations that are available. So the more automated the data collection is, the more accurate it is going to be, right? The last one is the production operations, where you can have the first threat is theft of assets. So you have a lot of inventory, and some of them could be small and expensive, like the GPS system, or the like the computer chips, the sensors, and so forth that go into manufacturing, let's say, a car. So the more safely you guard the assets physically, restrict the access, or put video cameras, or put scanners, or put other means, the lower your theft is going to be. Because it's very easy. Some of those items are very small. Somebody can put it in their pockets and walk out, and it could cost the company thousands, or even hundreds of thousands if the items are stolen. So in the production operation, keeping the assets, the inventory safeguarded is one of the important activities. The second issue in production operation is disruption of operations due to calamity. So you could have two issues here. One is the production capacity, production facility itself. The other is the production facility of the supplier. So if the production stops, let's say the company has only one factory and it manufactures everything from that factory, something happens to that area, an earthquake or a wildfire or flood, something, it will completely stop the production. But for a company that has two different locations, and in each they have excess capacity, so let's say you have two factories, each of them can produce 1,000 cars, you're only making 500 in each. If something happens to one of the locations, the other location can increase production, and your production will continue, right? So this is backup. For the supplier, if you only buy all, use only one supplier and buy all your items from that supplier, and you don't have an alternative, something happens to that supplier's production, your production will stop, right? So having a backup is necessary. Buying the same item from two or more suppliers is safer, because if something happens to the vendor, supplier, then you can continue and you can increase the order to the other supplier. Does that make sense? All right, so do we have the last topic for this chapter, which is quality control. There are 4 stages of quality control, and the earlier you can detect the issues, the less it will cost you. The first stage is called prevention cost, and usually this is at the product design and the process design stage, where you haven't produced anything, you are just working with the product. You're thinking about what could go wrong, how to make the product more efficient, how to make it faster, etc., etc. And the more brainstorming and thinking and idea generation you can do at this stage, it will take time, but it will cost you the least amount because you have not produced anything. So this prevents any quality issues later when you're designing the product or the process. The second stage is inspection, where you have produced some prototypes, you have put together, let's take an example, let's say you're designing a phone and you have made a few of them, and you've given it to some of the employees to use. They're using it, they're testing it, they're inspecting it to see whether there is any problem, and if they can identify the problem, you can go back to the design and you can fix it. It's more expensive than the design stage, but it's still not tremendously expensive, because you only produce a few, and you can go back and fix the issues and go back to the design stage and fix and address the problems that they're experiencing. The third stage is after you have decided the product should go into production, everything is good, and you make 1,000 of these products, manufacture 1,000 phones. Before you sell it to the customers, let's say the employees find problems. So they haven't gone to the customers, but you have produced 1,000 of them. And now you find a problem. If you want to fix the problem now, you have to fix it in all of these 1,000 phones, all of these 1,000 phone sets. Now, this is much more expensive than the first two stages. It could be something that you produced which is very, very low in cost. Let's say a jump drive. Then maybe it is better to just discard that batch and produce a new batch instead of fixing, because it may not be cost efficient. But if it's something big like a phone or a car or a computer, maybe you can refurbish it. Maybe you can fix the problem in all of those 1,000 pieces and sell it to the customer. Again, it's more expensive than the first two stages, but it's still with you. The product has not gone out to the customer. The last stage is the external failure when the product goes to the customer. Now, the customer uses the item and they find the problem. So the brake doesn't work or the window doesn't come down, and the customer is the one who's finding this problem. Now, this is not only expensive, but it's bad publicity. It is going to be all over the media, and your sales might suffer because of that. So the external failure cost is very expensive. You have to now recall as the customer to bring the product back and you fix it. And this is the most expensive in terms of financial cost as well as reputation. And so the earlier you can detect the problem, the lower the cost is going to be. The goal of the company is to maintain quality while keeping the costs under control. So that's the end of our chapter 14. You have any questions, you can ask me now or in future classes, no problem, or via email. Any questions? Okay. Let's move on to the next project, which is project B. It's in the content section of Blackboard. Have you seen it? Anyone seen it? Okay, the project is in Blackboard. The groups are also in Blackboard. And the project B has two options. One is the video and the other one is a poster. And I'm going to talk about this in just a second. It's due on November 19th. And also I wanted to let you know that quiz 4 is going to be on November 17th, because that is the last day of class and we cannot have it after that. So initially the classes were going to be for 15 weeks. That's why we had it in the last week. But now it has to be shifted to the week before that, which is November 17th. And if you have somebody who's not attending the class, please convey this information to them. Okay. Now let's look at the groups first. The groups for project B. The groups are the same, right? Can you see it? Can you see the distribution? This document is posted in Blackboard as well. So the groups are the same. I have received all of your group projects and I've started to read them. Give me some time and I will have the grades with my comments and etc. Back to you, inshallah. Taking my time to read carefully what you did, and I will give you good feedback, inshallah. The first three groups are going to be in the video category, and I'm going to talk about what that means. And the groups 4, 5, 6, and 7 are going to do the Project B poster version. So there are two versions of Project B in Blackboard. One is Project B video, and the other one is Project B poster. First three groups are going to do the video version. The second and the other four groups are going to do the poster. And this is based on your multiple intelligence dimension. Almost, none of you, I can say, none of you, with the exception of maybe a couple of students, enjoy writing reports. So your verbal dimension is not higher than the visual and the interpersonal. You are as a group, you are either higher in visual dimension, meaning preparing something that has graphics and images and a poster presentation is more appealing to this group of students than writing a report. The other group, they are interpersonally higher in their multiple intelligence. They like to discuss, present. They're more outwardly presenting the information presenters. So for them, preparing a video is more appealing than writing a report. Okay, does that make sense? Or am I missing something? Do I have a lot of people here who like to write reports? Right? Most people here do not, right? Okay. Now, what you have to do, if you're assigned to the video, then Muhammad says, I made sure to put 0 on presenting. Which group are you in, Muhammad? Group 4? Group 3? Let's see here. Right. Muhammad, you're compared to the other two dimensions, which are uh, verbal, which is writing reports, and visual, which is preparing posters, etc. Your interpersonal dimension is higher, right? You have a 6 there, and then you have a 5 in verbal, and you have a 4 in visual, right? So even if you do not like presenting, you dislike the preparation of the poster even more than the presentation, based on what you answered. Does that make sense? Although they're very close, those two dimensions are very close to you, close with you. Okay. Now, this project, the video project, is about the expenditure cycle. So the first one was the revenue cycle. You have to work in a similar setting, in the same framework of finding a technology and its utilization in the expenditure cycle, benefits and disadvantages, and division of the work should be similar to the way it was. Except here you have the grading of your video is going to be based on your oral presentation your visual presentation. So whatever visuals you're showing in the video, what you're showing, demonstrating in the video, that has a part of the grade. And then originality, right? How creative you are in making the video will also count here. So you don't have to write a report or submit a report. You just have to make a 10-minute video where all four of you will present part of it with whatever aid you can use. Be creative. I did not limit the option. I just kept it open so that you can use your creativity and imagination to do whatever you like to do. And you can ask me questions if you have any doubts or confusion. Okay. So do we have Muhammad Sada spoke is group number 3. Do we have the group leaders of group number 1 and 2 here? Do we have Ahmed Makki? Do we have Ahmed Shaimi? They're the two group leaders of groups number 1 and 2, and then Muhammad is the third group. Anybody from the first 3 groups have any questions about what I'm asking you to do here? And, you can download this and read it, and you can ask me further questions if you need clarification, inshallah. The other group, or the other project rather, is the poster, which is assigned to groups 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, here we have the poster version. You have to make a poster and create a PDF file of that poster, and you can submit that. Here you have to be concerned with the presentation of the content, which should have a visual appeal. It should be attractive. If you use text, then the language should be appropriate grammar and spelling and so forth. But remember, if you write a lot of sentences and paragraphs in a poster, it is not very appealing, because the view of the poster would like to get the idea with visuals and rather quickly, instead of reading a lot of text, right? So keep that in mind. And then the graphics you use, the appropriateness of the graphics and the usefulness of the graphics that you use in presenting the information in the poster is also important. You have to just prepare the poster and submit it. You don't have to present verbally, right, or orally. So you present the information in the poster and you submit the poster in a PDF format. The same 4 areas of the use of technology in the expenditure cycle. Okay, so the group leaders or any group members from groups 4, 5, 6, and 7, do you have any questions? Do you understand? If you're here, if you're a group leader of group number 4, 5, 6, or 7, identify yourself. Tell me that you're here and you are listening to what I'm saying. No, you cannot talk about the same technology that you used in project A. It should be something different. Okay, this is something different. Okay, so we have Muhammad Hussein, Omar Amin, and Ahmad and Sharat. So make sure um, you read the instructions carefully, and if you have any questions, you ask me. As Ahmad, tell me, Ahmad Makki, which version of the project B is assigned to your group? Ahmad, we have two versions of project B. One is making a video, the other one is making a poster. Do you know which group or which version of the project belongs to your group? Video, yes, very good. So make sure read the instructions, download the instructions, read them. If you have any doubts or any questions, please ask me. Okay? Any other questions, concerns? There's a question about a sample video. There is no sample video because this is something that you haven't done before. But I also don't want to provide a sample to guide you in one direction. Right? So this is your opportunity to learn. If you haven't done it before, there is always the first time. And at this time and age, not knowing how to make a video is not a very good thing to have. Okay. You're asking me why isn't there a chance to choose? The assignment is based on the multiple intelligence dimensions. So the questions that were presented to you were asking you for your preferences, and your preferences lead to the video or the poster, depending on your multiple intelligence dimension. Okay? If we do this, this defeats the whole purpose. If we give everybody the option, then we might have no one be, in one of the categories, and this does not serve the purpose of the utilization of the multiple intelligence, which is the whole idea. Okay? You're speaking for yourself as well. There are 3 other group members in your group, right? So, Sharat, all of these are open. All of these questions are open. The poster size, there is a standard poster size, right? There's a standard poster size. So stick to that. And there may be more than one standard for different purposes. So all of this is open, right, for you to discover, not limiting you. Muhammad says, all of us have done a poster and not a video before. So I should switch everybody to a video then, because this is a skill that you should have. No, I will not change, Muhammad. If you have a different preference, this is not an option. This is the assignment is based on it is difficult. I have never done it before. Can you change? Please consider. What is all of this? Learn. If you haven't done it, there is always a first time. Learn and do, right? There's always a first time. So jump at it with enthusiasm and show me your creativity. Okay? All right. Any other questions other than complaining about the project? It will be good for you, inshallah. This will be an excellent learning experience, and you will be a better presenter or poster maker after this experience, inshallah. Okay? To make you better, make you learn something that you did not know before. Sharat, there's a question: how do we show which team member prepared which part? Tell me, Sharat, answer this question for me. I have a poster. It has 4 different things that are presented: the technology itself, its use in the expenditure cycle, the benefits, and the disadvantages. How can you demonstrate these things with the demonstration of the person who contributed to that section? Answer that question for me. Tell me how you can do that. How can you do that? Are you there, Sharat? Well, think again. Think again. It is possible. It is possible to do, absolutely possible to do. No, Sharat, this is what the argument you're presenting is so weak. Find a way of doing that. I'm not going to tell you exactly how, but you can do. Other questions? All right. I honestly, I have to say, I am really frustrated with your initial questions. I cannot say most of these questions are good questions or most of these concerns are uh, enthusiastic. I must say, this is not something that I expected, and I did. This is not something that I experienced in the other section as well. So I am a bit frustrated. I'm a bit upset with the set of questions and concerns you have presented. It just killed my enthusiasm. The enthusiasm that I came with the project. Your comments and your questions just reduced my enthusiasm. But honestly, I hope you can do a good job like I think you can do, inshallah. All right? All right then. Inshallah, I will see you in next class. No need to be sorry, Muhammad. It's just you did what you had to do, but I did not expect this type of reaction, right? I need enthusiasm. Of course, it is a 400 level college class. If you want the process to be like drinking a glass of water, it's not going to be. And if I continue to give you the stupid closed book exams and nothing outside that, you will not be prepared for anything other than taking closed book exams, which is not something what happens in real life. Closed book exams are not something that happens in real life. Okay? Projects where you have to use creativity, projects where you have to employ your imagination, projects where you have to learn something outside your comfort zone is what makes you better. That's what improves you. You just rinse and repeat, right? Memorize and throw it out, and that's you know that's a type of environment when there is no improvement. Okay? So now I am liking all of these comments, right? It will prepare you for real life, inshallah. And uh, I'm making you do the work, but there is a lot of work on my side as well. I don't have to do, I could do just one write up project and just give it to you and then just give you multiple choice questions and true false questions in quizzes and exams and so forth. Makes my life easier. I don't have to go through all of this. It's easier for me, right? It's not the best thing for you. Okay? Grading all these multiple choice questionnaires to find out what your intelligence is and assigning a project based on your intelligence. All of this is tremendously extra work for me. Nobody's asking me to do this. This is for you. This is for you, my student, so that you can be a better professional when you leave here. Okay? So if it's work for you, it's double the work for me. But it's good for you, inshallah, and I don't mind the work if it is good for you. All right? Very good. Thank you so much. I will see you in class on Tuesday, inshallah. Jump at it, start working on it, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.